Live, maybe? And we are live. Hello and welcome to Developer Insights. I'm David.
And I'm Justin.
And together we are the leads on game development and design here at Codename.
We also founded Codename 2. And the original Codename, Codename 1.
The Codename 2 is just a backup. At any rate, we're going to be your hosts for this episode and for every episode.
Because when we're not here, the show doesn't happen.
Seems like we've got some control over that.
Today is our 73rd episode.
And it's our first sponsored episode.
Really? I think we've done the sponsored episode gag before.
Okay, well then it's our second sponsored episode.
Okay, and who is this magnificent sponsor that totally exists and is real?
Well, today's episode is sponsored by Codename Entertainment.
Wait, we've sponsored our own episode?
Yes, check out Bushwhacker 2, a great game by Codename Entertainment. Whack bushes, win prizes. Over 10 years of content available. Download it now at games.codenameentertainment.com.
Feels like we've just run out of content for our intros, and now we're just plugging our own games.
Well, the shoe fits.
Anyway, as always, we are here to answer development and design questions about Idle Champions.
And if you don't suffer... Wait, nope, that's the wrong line. If you don't ask any questions, you may have to suffer through Justin's one-man reenactment of Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope.
Hey, I've seen that one. It's a classic.
No. That line's from your one-man reenactment of Back to the Future.
Oh, whoops.
Should have read that in advance. Anyway, as always, we have pulled some questions from the previous show that we didn't get to, and we will get to answering some of those while we wait for new questions to come in. But before we get to those, we do have some updates from items we flagged to get looked at by the dev team. So without any further stalling for time, we're going to get started with those. I do have a short list of fixes / new features today. It's a very short list. It has one new feature and one item that I did take a look at. The first new feature that we did add was a request. I believe it was a request that Garwar made for having additional space around the Modron core view, some padding so that you could bring up the filters and not have it cover over the core. That is now done. I'm not exactly sure what build that's going out in, but it will be out as soon as the next build goes out. So that's done. I did take a look at increasing the UI scale past 125% for higher resolution displays. Unfortunately, as it stands, the way or what elements that does affect, it's not enough. It's not going to help for 4K displays because the text ends up really small and the other dialogues, which are fixed sizes, don't scale. So I'm not sure that that's really a solution for running on higher resolution displays. But I think I may have left the option in so you can play with it yourself. But I think we're going to need a little bit more work on the actual dialogues to make it, if we're going to run it at a higher resolution. At any rate, moving on to the in-progress items, we still have prioritized save feat with formations, adding icons to portraits of champions that are blocked due to variant rules that have a feat available that could make them unblocked. Tooltip for gear with a max level to indicate the progress towards max level. An option on mobile for quick return to area 1. Additional icons on the quest tracker for the different types of season quests. Recall for familiar. Indicator for unread changelog. Adding the option to buy one more patron chest at a time. Adjusting the sorting on the campaign list on the Modron automation. And, this one's done. You can pull that off. Consider that done. I did go over this list earlier in the week with Peter, and I know he has a few of these items flagged for individuals to be working on. So we can, or hopefully next week, some of these will be on the fixes / new feature list and not on the in-progress list.
I seem to recall at least one of the developers was starting working on some Legendary Forge updates.
Yes, that's true. These are not on the list, but I did do a pass on that dialogue, as well as we'll be adding an option to the character display on the equipments, a quick link from there to bring up the Forge dialogue of equipment that qualifies. So I think that, and then the actual dialogue itself is going to have some features and some filters and some sorting, which should make it easier to use. And hopefully that sort of makes it a lot easier to get to the legendary you want to actually forge.
Cool.
Cool.
Let's move on to some questions from last week's show. We've pulled forward a couple of questions from last week's episode, so hopefully the people who asked them are still here. And if not, then hopefully they're interesting, and people who are here will enjoy them. So without further delaying, the first one here is from Maelstrom7737, who asks, is there an update on adding an icon on an adventure when adding or removing a feat would make a champion eligible? I've got Dave mouth today for asking questions. Is it possible to add a button to remove a feat from a champion? Would it be possible for formation saves to also save feats? This is 3 questions in one.
That's true, it is. And 2 of those... Wait, did we not add a button to remove a feat from champion? Did that get... I swear that was...
It got flagged as something we should do.
I thought it was something we were going to do.
Yeah.
I'm tagging that particular portion because I thought that was actually something we were doing. So we'll tag that and make sure that does get done, because that was going to be an easy one. So the other 2 pieces, which are items that are on the list above, I don't have an update specifically on when we're going to get the icon in, so that adding or removing a feat will make a champion eligible for a variant or a patron. But it is something that is on the list. And as I said moments ago, I did go over this list with Peter earlier in the week, and we did tag 4 or 5 of these items to get knocked off as soon as possible. That one I don't think was on there because it was a little bit more complicated, but it is definitely something that'll be in the next set. And then would it be possible for feats to also save, or formations to also save feats? That is also in the list, and it's also one of the ones that is a little bit more complicated. So hopefully that also will get looked at in the next pass on that list of items. Okay, moving on. Next question. This one is from Anonymous. I
can ask you this one. This one's probably better for you.
Sure.
So, yeah, it's from Anonymous 698008, who says, head only skin for every champion, where everything except for the head is invisible / non-existent, including attack animations and ultimates. Would this reduce lag in any way?
Head only skin. They say that, and I pictured just a large head. Instead of, it's not just the head, it's just actually like an enlarged head, and every champion in the formation is a floating head. I don't think that's something that we would consider doing, and unfortunately, no, it wouldn't reduce the lag in any way. Most of the latency in the game comes from the calculation of the effects of the whenever a champion ability is updated or damage is done, that sort of thing. It's not graphical related in general. So unfortunately, that would not reduce lag. Yeah. Actually, one item that I can add to the list of in-progress items that I know someone was actually tagged to take a look at was also adding the random skin, which was suggested last episode. And that is that you could pick an option from the skin selection that's just random, and then every reset you'd get a new skin for that champion from the selection of skins that you have. So I think that's kind of a cool feature. Next question. This one is from Randram, asking, in the last Q&A, Trevor said green grass begins on the 12th of April. The expected date was the 5th, and that's the date for the until next event for champions in the store profile. Or at least it was when this question was posted. Will this be fixed ahead of time?
Yeah, I looked at the calendar. It does look like March 12th is the correct, or April 12th rather, is the correct date for that. So we'll have to get Peter to look at that. It's likely just that the data for that one is a little bit far off and hasn't been updated in all the champions yet. I know the schedule has been moving around like crazy this year as we've been trying to pivot around promotions and platform promos and stuff like that. So
okay, and the last question left over from the previous show is from Maelstrom7737, and they ask, will the Season 2 reward shop be open after the event closes to allow players to spend any season currency after the event?
Yes, I believe the season 2 reward shop should still be open. The season obviously ended yesterday, but the reward shop should still be open. So if you've got a little bit of currency left over, you should be able to spend that now.
Okay. Well, on to the new questions. Wow, Justin, I see you've been busy basically highlighting every single question.
They're all mine.
All right. Well, then, we better get started. First question from today is from Demon Grrr. Are there plans to further hobble human speed ability in Season 3?
This feels like a slightly passive-aggressive
Further
question.
hobble. Did you hobble human speed ability in Season 2, Justin?
Not in Season 2. I haven't hobbled human speed ability in a while. But no, humans speed ability. I mean, in Season 3, humans actually getting a bit of a buff, kind of. Similar kind of thing that we did to other season speed champions, where there's kind of one spec choice that is very, very good for speed, and other spec choices that are not good for speed. And so we're going to take that spec choice. I think that maybe one of the only things we're doing to human is taking that spec choice out, putting that into a regular upgrade, and then providing a different spec choice in that slot. One that'll make him work a little better with, or them, I guess, work a little better with the other season champions.
As long as it doesn't increase the number of save calls he's causing.
It does not do that.
Okay. Next question. This is from Garwar. Garwar asks, I love that when a season ends, you have time to spend the currency you have and can actually... you have time to spend the currency you have and can actually spend. However, if for those of us that have random amounts left over, it would be wonderful if it converted 1-to-1 into gems rather than that effort just disappearing. Is this something that you've considered at all?
Yeah, we did try to make some changes in the season 2 reward shop in tier 11 there to make it so that there was some smaller currency amount or smaller cost items in there. Specifically the gold chest, I think, at 1,000 currency, and so that was kind of in a response to reaching or to feedback on that in season 1. And I don't think we're making any changes for season 2, but we are making well, that's not true. I think we've changed the gold chest into gems in season 2 or
season 3, you mean?
3, so that you kind of have more of a choice on what to spend that stuff on, what to spend your gems on. You can still get the gold chests if you want those, or you can buy click skins or skins or familiars or whatnot. But there are no other changes to the tier 11 in terms of being able to spend that leftover little bit of currency. Season 4 plus, we have some other plans for the reward track, which will hopefully address some of those concerns.
Yeah. Okay. Next question is from Bookish Oddish. Asking, since some things about the new season have been announced, are you willing to say if there are any champion whose current achievements are not going to become legacy, or are going to become legacy? I'm just adding words. Are there any champions' abilities whose current or champion achievements that are going to become legacy next week?
So yeah, this is a good question. I went and took a look, and yes. So I believe we've talked or somewhere we've announced who the 5 champions are in season 3, and of those 5, the one that is having their achievement changed is Birdsong. So Birdsong's getting changed enough such that her achievement doesn't make sense anymore. And so if you want to get Birdsong's old achievement, now is the time to get it before it turns into something that you cannot get anymore. The current one's called Warrior's Tempo. You have to maintain tempo of victory for a full minute with a full formation. And some of the sustainability changes we are making to Birdsong are making it so that that would be very trivial, because you can no longer lose those the equivalent to the tempo of victory stacks.
Okay. Next question then is from Emote. When viewing the tooltip for the blessings button that shows our favors, could the favors be separated so that permanent ones are at the top and temporary are at the bottom, and that it is titled as such? Also, could inactive temporary non-convertible favors in the blessing window be hidden?
Yeah, I saw a similar question to this last week. We didn't pull it up to the top because there were many questions, but I think this is a good idea, just to make that a little bit more clear. Certainly, some of those inactive, temporary, non-convertible favors, the ones from the 17 events that are not currently active, or 16 events that are not currently active at any given time, probably don't need to be listed there at 0. So I think there's some work we can do there to make that a little more clear. Next question here is from Lalm the True Legendary, who asks, how about an option to reset on party wipe as an alternative to the area goal on Modron cores, so with automation?
Yeah, I don't see any reason, like from a technical standpoint, that we couldn't do this fairly straightforwardly. I would only wonder if there's, maybe you have more ideas on this one than I might, if there are cases where this would result in sort of behavior that was unintended, like something that you didn't want.
I think this is another one of those those things where you need like an advanced mode that we've kind of talked about recently, where like in the base kind of automation system, we wouldn't want to have this option, because I think it could be confusing to players. It would make it kind of random which area you got to potentially, especially if there was some enemies or bosses in the free play that could do things that were different from time to time, right? So you could potentially wipe on, if there was an area 50 boss that one shot, say if you got really unlucky and it one shot your DPS and then you wiped there, you might have one run where you wipe on area 50, and then the next run you wipe on area 150, and the next area you wipe on area 100, and like I think it could just potentially be confusing. So we'd want to, if we were going to do something like that, we'd want to restrict it behind a kind of advanced mode and have like a caveat of like, make sure you know what you're doing before you enable one of these things, because potentially you could have some weird behavior.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, next question. This one is from Ranram. Okay. Anyway, that was modified. Anyway, go ahead. The question is, Spurt is a ranged champion who loses his ranged attack in spirit form, disqualifying him from a reach stack on Solak when used optimally. Or, there's a comma there. When used optimally with his upcoming rework in 5 to 13 days. What's I'm not sure how I'm supposed to read that.
In 6 days, but yeah.
Is there any chance to sneak in a ranged base attack tag for this to be improved, especially when so few ranged attack support and him being the only one in seat 3, but can't be used and buff at once?
So this is something that I think Mars brought this up in Mattermouse last week, and I think it's totally something that we can do, and something that we should make sure is done as part of the rework, because it should be pretty straightforward. We do it with Merylwyn, and I'm not sure if we do it with Dungeon Master when Uni is there, but certainly something that we can do.
Okay, next question. This one is from Emote. Has any more consideration gone into a way for us to fill out our item collection when you have capped items?
I don't think we've talked about it anymore internally, but I think the thing we're still thinking is that this would potentially be a place where we could reconfigure Electrum chests to maybe try and drop those items, even if the item level's already capped. We could still drop the item and to fill out your collection and throw you a blacksmithing contract or something. So that's still the plan. It's just a matter of when we get around to doing that one.
We need a chest that works the opposite way around and always gives you the lowest one that you don't have rather than the highest one.
It still needs a little bit of work, because if your item is capped, like if you're at the highest item level, then we wouldn't drop you more items for that slot period, and so we'd need to make it so, yeah, you'd have to there'd be a little bit of reworking of the code to allow for those to happen.
Okay.
Next question here is from Randram, who says, with the free Gem Hunter, temporary, unique, familiar, champs, and shinies announced for the upcoming Steam giveaway this week, Randram would like to know why all 7 of them on the CNE launcher can't have nice things.
All 7 of them?
There's got to be more than 7.
Yeah, there's got to be more than 7
So
of
I think
them.
I might have made a joke about there being 7 of them in a previous stream, which is where that number comes from.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. Certainly it's not the favoriteest thing when the other platforms are getting promotion, and so especially on the CNE platform, which isn't getting is not a platform that often gets a lot of promotion, because this is usually an arrangement that we make with the platform itself, and it's not necessarily something we would do with ourselves to offer promotion through on the CNE platform.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you kind of touched on it there. I mean, really, the reason we're doing these, giveaway things is because the platform is giving us a bunch of advertising space on them, and so we get a bunch of installs, which helps us and helps the game. And that's not something that we can do on our own website, because we can't send we could send a bunch of players or a bunch of installs into our game on our own website. We would definitely do that.
Yeah, I mean, and of course it's across the other platforms as well. They're also not getting the bonus there. If you're on iOS or Android or Xbox, or each of which have their own promotions when they happen. Although I don't know that we've had one on Apple or iOS.
No.
It's sort of the nature of the game in that case.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I don't think there's really a good answer for that, but
yeah,
not a satisfying answer, at least.
That's honestly, it's not a satisfying answer of yeah. Next question. This one is from OG17. The Reddit Q&A said the next season is Turiel, Birdsong, Spurt, Human, and Barrowin. Hugh is a solid support and ever-present speed pick, while Birdsong and Spurt see constant use in meta formations. If characters won't be changed outside of seasons, why were these characters chosen over many, many others? Stokey and Narak even fit the theme, for example.
Yeah, I guess the way that we pick the champions for the season is there's a lot of factors that go into it. I can't recall the exact factors that were going into season 3, but I know that there was some. We were looking at seats. We were looking at how long the champion has been in the game. Obviously, Stokey has been in the game the longest out of all of our non-core champions, and Narak is very close behind there. But we were looking at kind of how well they can work together, how much they're used. Yes, it is true that some of those champions are used more. Hugh specifically was put in there because we didn't really have time to do 5 full reworks, so we wanted a champion who would be good, who players would enjoy using for 10 weeks, who people wouldn't complain about getting a couple of extra item levels or chests or skins or feats for. And so Hugh was sort of one that we put in there as here you go, here's something nice in the season that isn't necessarily a complete champion rework. Yeah, the other ones, I know Turiel was certainly low in terms of usage. Birdsong wasn't super high, but was kind of the DPS that we were most interested in updating and trying to bring up to a good level. Spurt, I think we really like the idea of Spurt, and Spurt. I'm surprised that Spurt sees a lot of use in meta formations. because I don't think we were seeing that in our numbers. And then Barrowin was one of those where I am going to keep on reworking Barrowin until I get her right, because gosh darn it, I want to get her right. Barrowin was actually one of the very first champions in the game that kind of was a little bit OP, and so she got pretty severely nerfed. And then we've been trying to kind of bring her back up into the meta ever since. And I think there's a good opportunity, or a good chance that this season we'll bring her back up there, because we've done some pretty fun things with her. Let's see. Dave's finally highlighted some questions here.
What are you talking about? You highlighted every single question. What was I going to do? Okay. Next question. This one is from Tarjay the Terrible. Could we get an increase in the drop rate of Modron chests by getting, for example, a time gate to Mechanus for 3 Modron chests plus X times 100 levels of silver chests that reward upgraded parts? Supercharging even a single core fully requires multiple thousand Modron chests, which feels quite steep.
Yeah. I think this is something that we've kind of talked about in the past, of sort of keeping an eye on the rate at which Modron chests are sort of freely available. And it's something where we've mentioned that we would take action if necessary. Certainly, we've tried to put some into the seasons to try and give a little bit more of a boost there. Definitely in tier 11, they're quite a bit cheaper to get if you're buying boosts for tier 11. But even if you just get through the season with the pass, there's still you can still get quite a few of them in tier 11 there as well. I think that this is probably something we can look at and see if we can find some ways to maybe slightly increase that, or increase the rate at which you're getting Modron chests. But I do like the idea of Modron chests, or Modron cores, basically being like a really end game super optimization that takes a decent amount of time to get, especially if you're playing for free. I think there's some stuff we can look at there, but I'm not looking to increase the rate by too much.
All right.
Looks like it's just about 2:30. You know what that means?
Transparent aluminum chests?
Transparent aluminum? Now there's a reference no one will get.
I don't know. I'm sure people will get that reference.
It's starting to get to be a very old movie. Anyway, we looked it up the last week, and it was like 1986.
Yeah, 1986.
Which is like...
We were barely alive.
Almost 40 years. Whew.
Yep.
40 years. Hate to be 40. That would be rough. Let's see. So yes, we're doing a giveaway. The way this works, if you haven't joined our stream before, is there will be a code word that everyone in chat is just quoting the movie now.
See, they got the reference.
A code word. You'll type the word into chat
using a keyboard.
Yes. Hello, computer. That will, typing the word ancients into chat will enter you into the draw. If you win, if Moobot picks you, if you're the lucky one, then you will get to pick a chest of your choice from the game, and we'll give you 42 of that chest. And you can open them, and you can get lots of fun, exciting things. It has to be a type of chest in the game. It can't be the Gloria Bahamut chests. I don't think we actually have transparent aluminum chests.
Those are the best. You can see what's in them before you open them.
That's true, but they're also they're very, very thick.
But they're strong enough to hold enough water to transport whales. So
that's true. So if you open it up, there might be a humpback whale inside. So watch out. Or there might be a random botanist from the 1980s inside. I don't know. There was stuff in that movie. It's good. Yeah. Did you know that the guy in Star Trek Picard in the second season on the bus who's playing the thing, he's actually the same guy as was in the movie in 1980s?
No, when I saw that, I had to look it up.
Cameo. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, that's going on. um, and let's just move on to some more questions because that giveaway is happening. Good luck to everyone. Next question here is from Jason M. Bryant 1, and they ask, when you select a Modron core for a party that is already when you select a Modron core for a party that is already in use by another party, you have to redo the settings like formation, area goals, etc. for both parties. How about if it traded them automatically?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I mean, I know why it doesn't, and that's because it would actually have to transfer them across, but I think that is something that we could probably do. I don't know that it's the behavior we default want to always have it do, so I think having a prompt for something like that would be the way to go about it, but I think that's something that we could take a look at for sure. I will highlight that one. Okay, next question. This one is from Wefron, I think. We're going to go with that. Weapon? Sure. Can you extend season buffs earned in the future seasons to run through the time rewards are still available to be bought or until the start of the next season?
Yeah, I think we talked about this in a previous, like at the end of season 1. And I think it was a good idea. Then I think it's probably still a good idea now because we want. I think it's a good idea to kind of keep on using those champions for as long as possible. Up until we have a new set of champions that we want you to use. So I think that's not a bad idea, and definitely something we can look into. Kind of be cool if like a percentage of those just kind of persisted as well, but then we'd have to find a way to kind of make it so you could.
Yeah, no. That would turn into a power creep that people who played the earlier seasons carried into later seasons. Yeah, or later just forever. Yeah.
No, I mean we wouldn't keep the whole amount of it. Obviously, because that's something like e to the 20 or e to the 25 worth of buffs when you have everything added together. But certainly it could be maybe a portion of it. I don't know. That
opens that can of worms, or wait, no, ball of wax. Those are the right ones. Not a can of wax and a ball of worms. In terms of players
in a can of wax
looking to get those when they can't get them anymore.
Yeah. So it's definitely something to think about how we would do that if we did do that. Anyway, that's for me to think about not live on stream. The next question here is also from Jason M. Bryant, who asks, when you're doing a patron variant, the mission summary sometimes makes it very hard to read the amount of patron currency because it overlaps with the influence.
It overlaps!
Could you put a new line after the number so the number and the name of the currency have more space?
Literally unplayable.
Come on.
No, we can't have that.
You know what we should do? We should redo all the UI for 4K.
No. But that said, that's we can definitely fix that. That shouldn't be the case. I never want to see text overlapping.
No.
Someone's in trouble.
Yeah.
Tagging it. Okay. Next question. This is from Anonymous. I want to see you guys drink a few shots of espresso before hosting a dev insight. Hyperspeed. I don't know, they're saying we're a little bit slow today.
What? No, they just want us to see us get through 140 questions in one episode.
Oof. We could try, but yeah, I feel like a few shots of espresso and about 40 minutes through the episode starts to get a little uncomfortable.
Is there an X in espresso?
Espresso? You're right. It is espresso. No, there's no X.
Like
it's espresso.
Like it should be espresso. Like it makes you go. It like an express train goes really fast, or like it should be espresso. But it's not, unfortunately. Damn the Italians.
Sort of magical spell. All right. Next question.
Yes. This is from Oracolo Janus, who asks, or Hannes, who asks, in the blessings menu...
espresso caps at 10 times, though. There we go.
They ask, in the blessings menu, can we get rid of, this is the same question as from before. Can we get rid of or hide the icons for favors that are at 0 or not active at the moment? It would make it easier to see how many favors there are and expected conversion for the active ones.
Short answer? Yes. I think we should do that.
This is the same as...
Yeah, it was an earlier question, similar. And I swear someone asked that last week, too.
Yeah, it was definitely there last week as well.
We can do that. Yeah, so this next question here, I was curious what they were asking about. So Sudden Kill 99, if you are still in the chat, if you could elaborate. The question here was, would you be able to add the wraparound feature on your champions on Xbox? And I'm not sure what that's referring to, and I got a comment here from the mods. No idea what this is. So if you can elaborate.
So in the console UI on the bottom, you can like go from left, like you can go from click damage up to seat 12, right?
Yeah.
So maybe wraparound means like if you hit
12,
right when you're on seat 12,
all the way back
you go back to click damage. And same for the row above, right? Where you've got kind of the ultimate stuff on the left, and then the sort of the temporary buttons on the right and the next row up. So I think that's probably what that means.
I think you're right. Looks like they're in the chat. They may clarify. Yep. Okay.
That's
they got it.
Yes.
You did it. You decoded it.
I get a cookie.
Now we should probably answer the question.
I think that's a good idea. I think. I mean, are there any downsides to putting that in? Is it better off as an optional kind of
I don't know.
thing?
Well, we could put it in and see. My only thought would be if there was, if the game, this is terrible actually, the thought is if the game was lagging for some reason, you might go past the target.
Well, then assumably you could just go back.
That's true. You just go back.
By going the opposite direction, but yeah, it's not a bad idea.
All right, we'll consider it.
Yeah.
Next question.
Yeah.
This is from Monkey House. What happened with the last few days of the season and progress not tracking?
Yes, I don't know the exact answer to this, but I highlighted it because I know half of the answer. And I think the thing that I saw apparently happening was that some season 3 data, I guess, crept out onto live at the same time. And something about that being on live was causing issues with season 2. I think that only happened. That was only happening for a couple of hours before that got fixed and rolled back.
Yeah, I mean that was my understanding as well, but I don't know exactly the details of how it was actually happening. Only that the data for some of the season 3 challenges was causing that problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Next question from True One Heda.
Oh, I like this question because I already answered it.
Who asked, how about adding a way to open the forge from the character sheet?
On it. Is that enough of an answer? No.
Yes.
Yeah, so
yes, good idea.
Yeah. As mentioned earlier, a redesign of the forge dialogue has been given to one of the developers to implement, and one of the features along with that is opening the forge from the character sheet for equipment that qualifies. So should make that a lot easier to find the equipment that you're trying to get to without having to drag through a bunch of pages of champions.
Great. Next question. Cassius335 asks, for Dev Insights 75, I guess in 2 weeks, can we get Justin and Dave's
not 74 but 75? Okay.
Yeah, no, they're like, I don't want this now. I want this eventually. Can we get Justin and Dave's 2-man reenactment explaining the complicated and lengthy backstory of Crusaders of the Lost Idols? So like the actual lore of the world,
or how it came into being,
or how the game came to be. I'm assuming they mean the lore of the world because that is quite complicated and lengthy.
It's 2 weeks because we need time to plan. That's the
we need time to come up with the complicated and lengthy backstory of Crusaders of the Lost Idols. We'll see, maybe Crusaders will sponsor the 75th episode.
I mean, as interesting as that sounds, players would probably want us to answer questions about champions rather than tell the story of Crusaders, but we're going to save that for Extra Life.
Garwar says for episode 100 we should do a two-man reenactment of Dev Insights episode 1 with the questions and answers, which we could actually do. If I scroll down in this document 389 pages,
that's true,
we still have the questions from episode 1.
I was just commenting at the beginning of the show that the document is starting to lag, and we should probably start a new one. But
Speaking of lag, next question is from Monkey House, who asks, there was a pop-up message apologizing about server stability, but the lag persists. What news can you provide on that front? And take a long time to answer this because I need to highlight more questions.
Okay. So we did have a pop-up earlier this week where we were giving some additional chests, and I think we gave something else to go with that. Just sort of a make good on the server instabilities that have happened since we did some upgrades. We ran into some issues first with the servers using too much disk burst, which was causing some slowdowns, and then we've had a couple of servers crashing on us. And it's something that we've, at this point, we've nailed down a lot of it, other than we had a fun incident on last Sunday, where about 2 a.m, both Justin and I got woken up to repair a server that had just decided to stop responding completely.
Throw itself off a bridge.
I wasn't very happy about that.
Gave up.
So in general, though, things have become a lot more stable, and that's why we popped up this message saying, here, this is for the instability that we have been having. We're still working on the new servers and making sure that everything's running well. In terms of lag, I'm not sure which lag in particular you might be referring to. Certainly sort of frame rate lag, which we've mentioned before, is kind of a thing that's a CPU limitation. And then like lag and calls to the server, that shouldn't be a problem right now. Like that's not something that we've been observing. It's not something that the call tracking is showing in terms of length of calls. So that sort of thing should be, in general, shouldn't be happening, except maybe perhaps, certain times of the day, like when we do like a rollover right at noon, you make a call right at that moment, that could end up taking a little bit longer than we would like. But lag in general shouldn't be a major issue. Other than, of course, as I mentioned, if it's hey, I've got my thing running with full speed champs and 10x, and the game frame rate is dropping. Unfortunately, that's something that's a completely unrelated to server stability. What are you writing in the chat, developer?
I was just getting ahead. Emo was asking about an issue last week or whatever with PS17 sending double JSON responses. And that was my bad. I don't know how to work output buffers. Anyway, let's see.
Twice the response from the server is twice as good, right?
Yeah.
I just don't understand how the game managed to handle that.
I also don't understand how the game didn't just immediately start crashing on that server. So
yeah, that was an odd one. Didn't break the game, but it did break people who were making scripted calls to that server.
Yeah.
Okay. Next question. This one is from Crash Test Gremlin, asking, is it possible to have the Modron Experience progress bar on the party menu to show exactly how many levels are needed without having to enter the Modron?
Yeah, I highlighted this one. I think it's an interesting idea. The one thing I would caution on this is kind of the one thing that we often caution when we start to talk about adding more and more UI to existing dialogues, is we do want to make sure that we don't make these dialogues even more complicated than they already are. I think there is a sort of fine line between enough information and too much information. And I'm not sure whether adding the progress bar there would be over that line or not over that line. But it's definitely something that we need to take into consideration before we add things. Because, the game is already very complicated. There's a lot of information coming at you on every dialogue. And we do want to make sure that the game doesn't just turn into a WoW rating UI where you've got every single inch of space is taken up by some sort of progress bar or health bar or whatnot. So yeah, it's something to think about, but I'm not sure where we would come down on that when we did.
Yeah, and I'm just seeing in the chat that sort of Monkey House followed up with its lag that's clicking on a character, finishing a run, changing area. So it can be up to 5 seconds for a response. I mean, that sounds like the game itself is freezing
like
up.
Yeah. Very odd.
Okay. Next question. This one is from Orc Princess. And they ask, or state, and then ask, loved the season again. It got my husband playing as well. My only issue was the tier 11 gold chest for 1,000. Which sounds like a Jeopardy question. At the end, after finishing everything, I had 1,550 currency. 1,000 for a gold chest seems high. They are only 500 gems, and those are easier to get than season currency. Any chance on lowering the chest price for next season? Thanks in advance.
Yeah, so...
and they're saying in the chat, ignore the question, already answered.
I know. I highlighted it on purpose because I've seen it. There's actually a bunch of people who've been asking very similar things. And after I answered the question before, we kind of... a lot of people were commenting on chat on sort of how much currency they had left over. And I think it's a possibility that we could look at that and maybe try and reduce it to a smaller amount. Without putting in a special system to basically eat up currency, or putting something in for like 50 currency, I don't think we'll be able to guarantee that we can use all of your currency, but we can certainly try and get it down to a smaller amount. With that said, Garwar is saying the big issue is some people have tons of currency but don't get to tier 11. I'm assuming those are free players, because otherwise you should be able to spend everything that you get up to tier 11 on pass items as well. So for those people, I say, buy the pass. For people who do make it into tier 11, we can try and make that breakage a little bit lower, but it's not likely going to be by making the gold chest cheaper, because it's already quite a good deal for 1,000. If you think about if you buy extra boosts, you get 15,000 currency, so that's 15 gold chests for $5, which is about 5 times better of a conversion than buying gold chests from the shop straight up. So we definitely would want to look at sort of the pricing on that and what we do there. But it's something I can look at for season 3, because I think we can still change a couple of those values.
Okay. Next question. This one is from Irene UK. Is the proposed Season 3 Barrowman revamp the beginning of a resurgence of dwarf power?
Yes.
Will this power
Maybe.
dwarf all the other power?
we would really like there to be, I think I was talking to Pete about this the other day. We would like it.
Resurgence.
Hey man, back when there were just 12 champions in the game, Bruno was pretty good. So, and yes, when Barrowin is broken. But yeah, I mean, I think a dwarf formation is one that we would like to kind of see there be a possibility to build around some dwarves. So I think Barrowin, the revamp for Barrowin kind of takes that into consideration. It's probably not going to happen just with the changes in Season 3. There'll probably need to be some more changes to some other dwarves, Binwin, in order to really make that happen. But definitely I would like to do, I would like to get a dwarf formation working pretty well. And somebody said unnerf Binwin. I don't think Binwin was ever really nerfed. He was just always not very good.
All right.
Sorry, Scott.
No, let's see here. It's funny, I was watching the chat and I saw the lurking writer commented that there was a question that he'd forgotten. I dug down. I found this, Justin. I think you could probably answer this. This was a question from last week that we didn't pull up. Does that look good to you?
Sure.
All right. This is because I saw you asking that you'd forgotten what question you'd asked last week. So this is from the lurking writer asking, can we have some sort of feature, maybe even a feat, to lock Briv's level skipping at 0, separate from simply using up all of the stacks? Or do you feel that jumping is too integral to part of his character design?
So basically a way to disable his jumping. So
That's
he
what
can still
sounds
gain
like.
stacks, but you just disable his jumping.
Yep.
So that you could just sit in area something and just get more stacks. Or just use him in your formation, but get
I couldn't tell you exactly the purpose, but
yeah. It feels like something you could do at your wall, and then put him in, I guess. Okay, so you're looking. Just to use him without jumping at all. Right. Some patron challenges need 1,000 levels. Oh, I see. Yeah. Okay. So there's a use case for this that I can see. Yeah.
Special case use feat.
I mean, if we ever get that nine jump feat in, maybe we'll do a 0 jump at the same time. Maybe. I can see the use case for it. So yeah, we can think about that one, I guess.
Okay. All right, then moving on to the next question. This one is from Engel Tiger. Could there be a symbol on a champion's info screen to indicate if we've got their achievement or not, rather than trying to find it in the event's achievement list?
I like that idea. I also like the idea of, there's actually a couple of other questions here. Sorry, my eyes are itchy. There's a couple of other questions here about sort of changes to the character sheet. And I think there was one thing that had kind of popped up on our radar of wanting to make some changes to that, because we're looking at kind of separating out incoming and outgoing effects and trying to get effective blessings and stuff to show up on that sheet as well. And so I think there are some changes that we might be making to the character info screen at some point. And I can certainly try to remember to include this type of thing on there. Because yeah, I think we'd like to improve what is going on there, to make it a little bit more functional, a little bit more useful.
All right. Next question here is from Randrum. Again, it's another one of those things that apparently Trevor's just given out the dates.
What is Trevor doing here?
Trevor said we'll get the spring celebration on the 8th. Any more information? It's so scarce.
Yeah, I can confirm that we are doing the spring. What do we call it? Is it the spring celebration? I feel like it's called the spring.
It did change. The name changed. It's
something. Spring. Wait, I can look it up. It's here
Extravaganza,
somewhere.
Maybe?
Spring Gathering.
Spring Gathering.
There you go. There's your more information. It's called the Spring Gathering. It runs from the 8th to the 15th. It is also when there will be, there's going to be a content update on that day. And I think that's when all of the rebounds changes for season 3 are going to go out. So yeah, it's going to be a rich, full day. We are definitely not going to be sitting here in our office watching for issues and then furiously fixing them as they come in.
It's a spring gathering where you go out and collect springs, according to the chat. So
that is correct, yes. And then there's the later one that's the gear gathering, and that all leads up to the Great Modron March, where you put the springs and the gears together and kickstart the Great Modron March.
Yeah, that ended badly, though. Anyway, next question. This is from the Lurking Writer. Which says question/suggestion. Could we have an extra tab in the character sheet that collates all the info that is in the collections library and or other MISC info that doesn't fit into the other tabs? Please.
Yeah, well, yes. This is something that I kind of touched on one question ago. Sort of wanting to redo some bits and pieces of the character sheet. I think mainly the main thing I want to do is kind of why on the normal UI or the non-console UI, I should say. I want to kind of stretch out the tab box that is there and put the equipment into it, and potentially sort of merging that and the collections bit for which pieces of equipment you've gotten might be a fun way to do that, because then we could also put sort of mouse overs for the lower rarity cards, so you could see the flavor text and whatnot, because I know we spent a bunch of time working on that text and making it fun. So I think there's definitely some work we can do there, and hopefully we'll get to that soonish. And let's see, last question of the day will be this one here from Alessiev, who asks Anyway,
That's the only reason I picked the question. I just wanted to see you try and pronounce the name.
What does your DevOps setup look like if you have one? You could have heartbeat monitoring, and if there's no response, spin up a new instance. Could help with auto response and could help with an auto response to non-responding instances.
Yeah. So the tricky thing about the server setup, unfortunately, is that when you're playing on a server, your data is on that server, which means that, unfortunately, when a server goes unresponsive, we can't just spin up another server to replace it because your current progress that you've made since you got transferred out to that server is only on that server. So we wouldn't want to transfer you from the previous sort of master storage we have of you out to a new server. So in a case like that, I mean, the best we've got is sort of would be an auto message us to let us know that we need to look at that. But unfortunately, your data would end up orphaned out there unless we actually addressed that particular instance, especially if it's gone unresponsive. If we could somehow get the data off and put it onto a different server, that would be a different story. One thing that I do think that the intention of the setup that is something we need to look into is that when an individual server does stop responding, it shouldn't cause issues for players who are on other servers. Unfortunately, it does currently, and that is something that the setup is not supposed to cause that. And I know we've sort of found ourselves in a position where it does. And so that is something that I would like to look at to make sure that less people are impacted in the case that one of the many servers does end up unresponsive. Although ideally we don't end up with unresponsive servers, but as I said, unfortunately for players who are on that server, they would end up orphaned there. So we do have to actually address the server and get that individual server back up so that no data is lost.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I think that we are out of time because I think that it is nearly 3:00.
Looks that way.
Yeah, if we didn't get to your question this week, don't worry. You will have another opportunity. We'll be live again at this same time next week, assuming that both of us are here. Before we sign off, though, we'd like to thank our tireless mods. This week, it was Sean and Mars and Gabe, new moderator. Hi, Gabe. Good job. Chat looks awesome. These are the folks who copy your questions into our questions doc and generally help make things awesome. So
and of course,
to all of you.
Thanks to all of you for hanging out, watching the stream, enjoying the game, and asking such great questions. Because without you, no one here would get to do what we do.
And we like what we do.
All right. That's enough for today. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon, everyone.
Bye.
You got a hot mic bit?
No, I was going to ask you.
Oh. Well, my hotel tried to charge me $10 extra for air conditioning.
Oh, no. Okay, yeah?
That wasn't cool.
Hmm.